And then it also joins with that amount on that side. So basically, when you look at the sleeve, it should kind of look like this, almost if you divide it into thirds. So if you do that, you can kind of see what the sleeve is supposed to look like normally. This part of the sleeve, this dart, usually does not come to the front of the sleeve. It's usually pulled back like this, and your elbow sits right about there, okay? This dart goes underneath on the underside of your arm, close to the body of the garment. You won't see it. A lot of times you'll see this dart in men's dress shirts and the fitted shirts. They are slightly more expensive. I'm not saying it's super duper expensive, but just slightly more so. And then also, continuing what I was saying just a second ago, this side also measures just about like this, okay? So is that everything I had to talk about? We did the grain lines. We looked at all of the what we call landmark type lines. We looked at the dart. We looked at the notches. We looked at the cap ease. This is your cap height. And so sometimes that's important when you're trying to evaluate your ease. And after you've kind of altered your bodice first, sometimes you need to alter the cap height because you might have too much cap height. So you need to take that down some, and by taking this down just a little bit at a time and remeasuring each time, you can find out, or you can end up, you know, taking out some of that ease that's all in the top of your sleeve. And I think that is about it. Oh, now also looking at the difference between these two bodices. If you look at your back bodice and compare it, compare both of the back bodices, the one with the dart and the one without the dart, what's the difference? Really, there should be no difference until you get to the area where the dart is. So really, everything should be the same. Once you get into, okay, let's say, okay, let's do an illustration here like this. So you traced off all of this. Once you get to about this area, you should stop tracing, which is about your mid-armhole, and then tracing around the center front or center back and around the neck. Once you get to your mid-armhole, stop tracing, or your mid-shoulder, I apologize, stop tracing. So from the mid-shoulder to about the mid-armhole, that's the area that really gets all of the change, because that's where the dart is, that's where it gets pivoted from and to, and that's basically what changes. Now, looking at this one, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And this will also help you understand darts a little better too, just a little bit, by understanding how it affects the pattern shape. Okay, so you see this part is the same. Once we open this, then you have to notice, if you look straight across, this part is going to move out too, because you're adding room here. So once you go from regular to out, if you just move this across to the edge of the pattern, you're going to go from regular to out. Okay. Now, we can set these on top of each other. Okay, and you can see everything should be the same except for where the darts are. Okay, so sitting these on top of each other, they're lined up perfectly. This is where things start to change in here. So you see this pattern moves out just a little bit. We have this dart that opens and it angles and moves the angle from here to like this. You see that? Okay. So moves that out, and this moves out like I told you. And now, and then it blends down here. And you can use your, what's the curve called? Your variform curve or your French curve in order to get this curve perfectly. Because you don't want to kind of free hand draw that curve because it doesn't get as smooth. So anyway, and also the darts are the same too. So now, Also, another thing that's different in your, what am I thinking of? That's different on your back bodices. This part, this armhole on the back bodice with no dart is going to be a little longer than the one with a dart. And I guess a good explanation for that would be, since this has a dart and this moves out, this is not going to have to be as big. It almost kind of crunches down, and you would think the more curve it has in it, the longer it would be, but not necessarily, because it still has to hit the same shoulder tip. So it's not like the shoulder tip moves too, or else this would be a longer thing. Because really, when you think about it, once this closes, it's still able to hit the same spot. Okay, now, with this dart completely gone, you have to think, this has to make it to that same spot, that shoulder tip, but without the help of the dart to kind of stretch it up that way. So it has to already have all of that stuff equipped, more or less, and I hope this is making sense to you, but it has to meet the same spot. So actually, the one without the dart, the armhole is a little bit longer, just a little bit, and you can see, or you can't see it on here, but the armhole is slightly bigger. Let's see if we can sort of measure it so you can see. Yeah. So you see, for the most part, it's the same armhole, and I've kind of got my pattern all crazy, that way the armholes will match. But if you look here, it's pretty much the same armhole until we get up in this area. So you see, the dart adds almost a good quarter to the armhole. So this is important when you're drafting your sleeve. You usually need to find the measurements of the armhole, take that, and then that will help you decide what the thing is. I usually always use the measurement of the bigger armhole, because you have to kind of think of it this way. When you're sewing your armhole, the way that you deal with ease in the cap, you gather that up. Now, if you're good at easing and gathering and all the other stuff so that it looks really slight and not overdone, then I would always use the bigger measurement, which is just a quarter of an inch bigger, and that will keep you from feeling like you have too much cap ease. Because if you use the smaller measurement and then you make it for that, once you try to put it on the bigger one, you'll be missing like a quarter inch of ease. And instead of, let's say yours is 1 1/4 perfectly on the low end of the ease, then you'll end up then, you know, it may fit perfectly on this one, but once you do it on this one, then you only have about an inch's worth of ease. And the ease, the point of the ease is so that it can fit over the ball of the arm, of the shoulder. Let me use my arm again to show you. The point of cap ease is so the garment can fit over this knob of the shoulder without it losing, without you having to really do a whole lot of extra to the pattern. Does that make sense? So you have this part here, and you know it's a flat pattern piece, it's a flat piece of fabric. It has to be able to grab onto this and connect on the bodice. So just think, if it doesn't have any ease, it's already going to be too tight, and then it's going to be too tight here, and it's not going to be a comfortable fit. So you're going to have a little extra room so that it fits comfortably and a little off of your arm, and then it still is able to curve down onto it. So I hope that made sense. But anyway, that's it. In the next video, we will be talking about the raglan sleeve that I have some stuff set up for y'all, or about to have it set up. It should be set up by Monday. So anyway, we'll be looking at that later.